This is Nigeria, and most people hear Nigeria and think of two things: oil and Nollywood. Then they move on. Big mistake. Because this is a country with the rarest gorilla left on Earth, a boat older than the pyramids, and a river so confused it runs away from the ocean before turning back. Nigeria is older, stranger, and wilder than the world ever gives it credit for. Here are 30 facts. Starting from fact 30, let's start with something wild. Nigeria has around 525 living languages. That makes it the most linguistically diverse nation in all of Africa, and the third most diverse on the entire planet. Only Papua New Guinea and Indonesia beat it. You could drive a few hours in Nigeria and the people around you are speaking a completely different language than where you started. Fact 29. Nigeria sits along something called the Cameroon Volcanic Line. It's a 1,600-kilometer chain of volcanoes stretching from islands in the Gulf of Guinea all the way toward Lake Chad. And here's the part that bugs scientists. Normally, volcanic chains get older as you move along them. This one doesn't. The ages are all over the place. It just doesn't fit the rules. To this day, nobody can fully explain how it formed. The planet's keeping that one a secret. Fact 28. Every winter, millions of waterbirds escape Europe and Asia by flying south. To survive, they must cross the brutal Sahara Desert. In far northern Nigeria, the Hadejia-Nguru wetlands become their lifeline. A 58,100-hectare oasis and Nigeria's first Ramsar-listed wetland, where millions of migratory birds stop to rest and feed. It's a patch of marsh on the edge of the Sahel that keeps one of the greatest bird migrations on Earth alive. Fact 27. Nigeria's border with Chad is only 85 kilometers long, but it's geologically bizarre. It was originally drawn straight through the open waters of Lake Chad. But since the 1960s, the lake has shrunk by up to 90%. Today, most of that border runs across dry land, exposed islands, and swamp. It's a living example of climate change literally redrawing the line between two countries. Fact 26. Let's talk about a river that makes no sense. The Niger River starts only 240 kilometers from the Atlantic Ocean. That's basically next door. But instead of running to the sea, it does the complete opposite. It flows away from the ocean, straight into the Sahara, then bends sharply and travels thousands of kilometers before finally curving back down to reach the coast in Nigeria. For centuries, European geographers were completely baffled by it. A river that runs away from the sea before changing its mind. Fact 25. And that same river gave the country its name. At a town called Lokoja, the Niger meets the Benue River in a huge confluence. A British journalist named Flora Shaw coined the word Nigeria back in 1897, literally from Niger area. But here's the twist. At the exact point they meet, the Benue is actually wider than the Niger, and it's carrying more water too. So technically, the river that named the country isn't even the bigger one at the handshake. Fact 24. The Niger Delta is the largest river delta in Africa and one of the biggest wetland systems on the entire planet. It covers around 70,000 square kilometers, about 7.5% of Nigeria's entire landmass just in one delta. And its mangrove forests? Third largest in the world, largest in all of Africa. It's a maze of water, sediment, and green that just goes on forever. Fact 23. Now here's the highest point in the country, Chappal Waddi, standing at 2,419 meters. The locals call it the Mountain of Death. And you'd assume that's because the climb is brutal, right? Nope. The climb itself is actually manageable. The name comes from an impassable gully on its southern face, a death trap that has nothing to do with reaching the top. Fact 22. The plateau that holds that mountain, the Mambilla Plateau, is the highest in Nigeria, at an average of 1,600 meters. It's the one place in the country where tea is grown at scale, thriving in a microclimate where temperatures rarely climb above 25 degrees Celsius. The landscape is dotted with eucalyptus forests planted during German colonial-era forestry before 1915. But the tea industry itself only took off in the 1970s, using high-altitude clones imported from Kenya. With its rolling green hills, heavy mists, and crisp air, parts of this plateau honestly feel more like the English countryside than equatorial Africa. Fact 21. Even though Nigeria sits entirely in the tropics, it's packed with at least 4 completely different climate zones from south to north. Along the coast, you get humid equatorial rainforest, then tropical monsoon inland, then savanna in the middle belt, and finally the hot, dry Sahel in the far north. That means you can travel from dense rainforest to near desert conditions without ever leaving the country. Fact 20. Ondo and Ogun states sit on one of the largest deposits of bitumen, or natural tar sands, in the entire world, a completely different energy resource from Nigeria's famous crude oil. This southwestern belt stretches across Ondo, Ogun, Lagos, and Edo states, holding massive bitumen reserves estimated at about 42.74 billion metric tons, over 42 billion barrels of oil equivalent. A hidden energy giant buried beneath the surface. Fact 19. Now this one is beautiful. Iyake Lake in Oyo State is one of only 2 naturally suspended lakes in the world. It sits about 300 meters up on a mountain in a natural rock basin. And even with Nigeria's heavy rainfall, it never overflows, and it never dries up. It stays perfectly balanced all year round. Fact 18. Nigeria's population is spread out in the most lopsided way you can imagine. The state of Anambra in the southeast packs in over 1,500 people per square kilometer, one of the highest rural densities anywhere on Earth. Meanwhile, Yobe in the northeast, roughly the same size, has fewer than 50 people per square kilometer. That gap is driven by soil, history, and an old belt of disease that kept people away. Fact 17. On the edge of the capital, there's a giant rock called Zuma Rock. It rises about 725 meters straight up out of the flat savanna, a single chunk of igneous rock, slowly exposed over millions of years as the softer ground around it eroded away. It even has a natural face carved into it by water runoff. They call it the Gateway to Abuja. And it's so iconic it's printed right on the 100 Naira banknote. Fact 16. Now, when you look at Nigeria's untapped energy potential, the Niger Delta tells a different story. It's not just oil. Its natural gas is one of the biggest stories on Earth. The region flares off massive volumes of gas, and using NASA's Visible Infrared Imaging Radiometer Suite satellite technology, these flares are tracked from orbit. That means parts of the Niger Delta literally glow in satellite images, visible from space at night. Fact 15. Now here's nature turning the intensity all the way up. Long-term satellite data from NASA's Optical Transient Detector and Lightning Imaging Sensor shows Nigeria sitting among the world's top lightning hotspots, alongside the Congo Basin.